one that can see.
Where there's thunder, there's lightning. John Nada. Well, the last video that I did created quite a stir and controversy. I was happy to see the level of comments on the video and the level of discussion and dialogue that went on. But a couple of people did get upset about the content, and I did lose, I think, a few subscribers over it. But the whole point and the whole statement that I've made before still remains, and that is that this channel is not intended to be popular. It's intended to speak as much truth as I'm able to speak, and the intent is to have us come together and be able to reason together this world around us. And so if I lose some subscribers here and there, then, like I said, you're free to listen or you're free not to listen. I certainly appreciate all the support that I do get, and for those of you that enjoyed the video, I do appreciate that. It was nice to dialogue about something that was not directly related to relationships or directly related to women. And I'm not saying that we should never talk about women, because obviously a large part of MGTOW and MGTOW philosophy is in the realm of relationships and the opposite gender. But there is quite a larger world out there in terms of the red pill and truths. Speaking of controversy, I listened to a video here not too long ago by Steve Hoka, who I happen to agree with him on this statement. I don't have a lot of subscribers, and he doesn't have a whole lot of subscribers, and I think that that's in large part due to the fact that both of us are pretty outspoken, and we say what we feel like is the truth of things. And as a result of that, no channel, or really anything for that matter, is ever going to have like a huge following or have a lot of subscribers or get real popular when you're speaking truth. And that's not to say that a lot of the channels out there that do have a lot of subscribers aren't speaking the truth, because I think that there certainly are many that have quite a lot of subscribers and they are speaking the truth. But like I said, the whole point for me is not to gain a following, but rather to put the message out there. And what Steve was talking about, and Steve actually was one of the first channels that I stumbled upon of anyone putting MGTOW content out there. But he brought up a point that I had been kind of batting back and forth in my own mind, and that is this idea of the dirty secret within MGTOW is that a lot of us MGTOW are not as happy as we may appear to be, and in fact many MGTOW are struggling with depression. Now that I agree with as it concerns with what Steve said, but he mentioned that Vincent is not is putting on an act in terms of really he's not all that happy, and he's not this happy-go-lucky, and not in this happy-go-lucky situation that he portrays himself to be. And I'm a big consumer of Vincent's videos as well. And to be quite honest with you, I've never heard him in any of his videos claim to be this happy, joyous, constantly happy-go-lucky guy. In fact, he's spoken in a lot of his videos about his own struggles in the past with depression and the things that go along with that. But I don't think this is so much a MGTOW issue as it is a Western culture issue. And a lot of it is related to the social media thing. I mean, people put this front out on social media that everything is just going their way all the time, and they're just constantly happy. And we know, anybody knows who's familiar with the reality of life, that this simply can't be the case. In life, you have valleys and you have hills and mountaintops. In life, you have ups and you have downs. And the reality of it is that I think that even MGTOW sometimes fall into this idea that if something is wrong, if you're sad, if you're depressed, if you're down, that there's something inherently wrong with that. That you should never feel that way. That life should be a constant um, state of joy and happiness. But the simple fact of it is that's not the way that the world works. That's not the reality of it. And a lot of guys, in fact, fool themselves with this idea that if they get a relationship or if they find somebody that they really like and end up dating them, that somehow they'll never be depressed, they'll never be upset, they'll never suffer anything. And I had this conversation with a friend of mine who's from Nepal over the weekend. We were talking about these very concepts of suffering, and it is oftentimes suffering and the things that we endure in life that form us into the people that we ultimately become. And that there is this idea that suffering of any kind is to be avoided. And that if one suffers, one is somehow unlucky or has fallen out of favor with the gods, or that for whatever reason the suffering has, maybe has been brought upon them because of some bad that they've put out to the universe. But the reality of it is that much of what I've accomplished in life, much of what I have become, much of my eventual triumphs in life have been in direct correlation to the suffering that I went through previously. And that a certain amount and level of suffering is necessary to build your character, to build your resiliency, to build your mind up, mature your mind, and in a sense, in some instances, mature your body. I mean, for instance, you cannot become a bodybuilding champion. You cannot become a person in good shape if you don't suffer in the gym, if you don't go through that pain barrier, as Arnold talks about, that there's a certain amount of pain, there's a certain amount of suffering associated with any kind of greatness or associated with any kind of success, be it physical suffering in terms of working out and weightlifting, or be it other forms of suffering. But I don't, MGTOW, many times we've discussed that MGTOW in and of itself is not a movement, but rather a philosophy or a way of looking at life. And I think it's unrealistic for anybody to think that because they're a MGTOW or to just in general think that they're never gonna be unhappy or they're never gonna have those down times. I don't think that it's so much so that Vincent says that he's happy all the time and he never suffers. I think he's been pretty honest and is one of the more truthful and honest MGTOW content producers out there. And I really appreciate the fact that he branches out from just the relationship aspects of MGTOW and talks about other things such as the Bitcoin and the other aspects that he speaks about. But I really see more. I don't so much see that he is fooling himself or fooling anyone else in terms of how he sees life. I think that he has walked his path for a long enough amount of time and endured many things, and he's actually come to a place where he is contented. Because there's a difference in being happy, there's a difference in being joyous, there's a difference in having peace and having contentment, and I think that that's where Vincent's at. Now, he mentioned the expatriation video that Vincent put out, and actually that's something that I've kind of looked into and thought about from time to time. And the thing is that I'm sure that my thoughts on it and my interest in it are similar to Vincent's thoughts and interest in it, and it has nothing to do with the women involved there. It has everything to do with experiencing a new culture, and the things associated with that. But Steve puts out some good content, and I do respect the fact that he just kind of has this no nonsense Northeastern way of just kind of saying things. But a lot of the problem is, even though we're not a movement, it seems that we have more, and I think this is a problem that's endemic with guys in general. We spend more time cutting each other down rather than building each other up. And there are schisms here and there. And I don't agree with every MGTOW content producer. And I'm sure there are content producers out there that don't agree with me. And clearly there are many people who listen to this channel that don't agree with a lot of the things that I say. I don't ask people to agree with me. I don't ask people to follow me as a disciple. I'm here as one of you trying to figure it all out. And it's not so much so that we need to unify or create some large movement or whatever. But a lot of the problem is that there are a lot of MGTOW who are no more going their own way than they were before they took the red pill. And I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to say who. I'm not, that's not my place. Because what really it comes down to is that I think a lot of us get distracted with the things going on around us. And we say that we're MGTOW, but we're really no more going our own way than we were before. And I liken it under this. It's kind of the Rocky III effect. You remember in the Rocky movies, the first one he goes the distance, and the second one he actually wins the title. And by the third movie, he's on top, and he kind of loses his edge. He kind of loses his drive and his passion for his profession, but just kind of a picture of life in general. And he ends up getting defeated by Clubber Lang. He ends up getting blindsided. He's not as resilient as he thought. He's not the, he grew tremendously from the first film to the third film, but in some ways he took steps backwards. And so he had to go back to the beginning. He had to undergo the training, if you will. And I feel like that happens to a lot of MGTOW. We get fed up. We, take the red pill. We start to see the truths out in the world of how things really are, and the scales fall from our eyes. And we go with that for a period of time, and we really start living our lives for ourselves and living our lives to our triumph. But somewhere along the way, we forget why we got into it to begin with. We forgot what brought us there to begin with. And some people go back to the plantation. Some people get blindsided by a possible Nawalt or possible unicorn, only to realize that they were fooled. And sometimes that has a tremendously negative effect on their life. And sometimes they're able to take these hits and come out unscathed. And then that's when they reevaluate their life and reevaluate where they're at, and they get back on their path and on going their own way. And that's kind of the thing, is that it's a daily task. It's a daily mindfulness. And one can easily stray from that. And so we have to be mindful and remind ourselves of why we're here, how we got here, and make a concerted effort to continue to go our own way. And make the concerted effort to envision what we want our lives to be. And then take the necessary steps and actions to get there. This has been the Days of Thunder. I am John Nada, and remember, you're free to do as you're told.